Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind. Let's see what happens.
Of it, I just need an explanation. When we first met, I think that there was this instant spark, this instant attraction, this instant connection between us. I think the fact that I felt wanted by you, needed by you, I think that brought me closer to you.
Okay, that fits with one of the hypotheses that I described earlier, that it's possible that he, because of his insecurity, his attachment insecurity, he needs someone to pursue and to cling to him because it will bridge that gap. It will provide him that security because he's too afraid to reach out. I don't know if this is true, but he basically, I think, is getting at that right now.
You had a lot of qualities that I really liked. That, oh, she's smart, she's ambitious, she's caring.
I don't know why he's starting with this, because his mission is to find out, so he is, I guess, maybe buttering her up a little bit before confronting her. I think, yeah, maybe that's why.
You find out my favorite color, and the next time I see you, you're wearing a blue dress. You find out my favorite drink, and then the next week you send over a bottle. And it's like those things, I could see you putting in that effort every day.
That's interesting the way he phrases it, right? You find out my best color, and then you show up in a dress of that same color. Put one way, it's like, oh, that's very thoughtful of you. Another way, it's creepy and stalkery, right? So I don't know. I think he's framing it in a way that it was nice.
You know, no lies, no drama,
I'm
no
not
BS.
a liar.
I'm not saying that you are. You remember the first argument we had where you weren't being exactly honest with me, right? And
You weren't being.
So I think his approach is, especially given her demeanor, is not wise. I would, if I were Birdie on his shoulder, I would just say, just cut to the chase. And your mission, he's stated his mission earlier, just like, I want answers, and probably not going to get them. Even if you're right that she came on the show knowing that he was going to be on the show, and you were just trying to get close to him or something, even if that's true, she has no reason to admit it right now because you don't have any kind of proof. So if she's been willing to lie this whole time, she will continue to be willing to lie. So that's not a wise choice. If your mission is to just blast her, then blast her, I guess. But the way he's going about this is like, he's saying all these nice things, and then he has these like vague statements. So yeah, I can't imagine this working well, regardless of what his mission is.
Me either.
But in that moment I was, because I revealed everything to you. In return, you lied to me.
I didn't lie.
I'm not trying to like argue.
I don't know what they're talking about. It sounds like they're talking about something from their relationship, right? Am I forgetting something?
Argue back and forth. I'm just telling you my perspective.
Yeah, but your perspective, I'm telling you, like, I didn't lie to you.
If you were being honest with me, why was...
Is he referring to what he was saying earlier with Aaliyah, how she was invading his privacy and lying about it? Is that what they're talking about?
Was I upset then? Explain that. What was I upset about?
Uche, I'm not gonna relay.
What was I upset about?
Experience.
Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you, Lydia, I'm not trying to argue over what it was.
But your volume
what
is going up.
But what?
Yeah, I mean, regardless of what he's referring to, and I think it is that, I mean, it's possible. What is his hope here? If you just want to blast someone, I don't know, it's not great, but save everyone's time and just blast them. But if you're trying to have an understanding, which is the way it looks, that's what he's trying to establish, these facts that, remember, you lied to me. And I think he's hoping that she's going to be like, yep, on camera, I'm going to admit that. Or maybe she's changed her mind, or I don't know. So, yeah. I would love, just out of curiosity, to know like what really happened. But I'm guessing we're not going to get an answer to that in terms of like the things he was saying about Lydia, about invading the privacy, and I see you taking a picture and all that kind of stuff. Is there any sort of accuracy there? Because if it is, then that says something But if it's not, that says something as well about Uche. I don't know. So I think it seemed Lydia is strangely quiet. I don't know if she's trying to withhold some detail because she doesn't want to get into the things that she knows that she did in the past that were wrong. That's certainly one possibility. Another is she just knows that or thinks that in the past there were transgressions both ways, and she just doesn't want to get into that right now. But she's being pretty quiet, right? And so I think that at the very least, that says that there's not a lot of traction you're going to get with her in this moment in terms of a conversation that's going to be constructive.
You asked me a question. I was honest with you, and I said, "What made you ask that question?"
After a while,
but
it
I
didn't
told you.
happen,
But
like,
I told you the truth
immediately.
at the end of the day, and then I asked you. What made you ask that question, and you were not honest. You said, "Oh, I just had this intuition."
And I did.
You were going through my things.
Oh, I think what we're talking about here is that he cheated on her, and she invaded his privacy because she had reasons to believe that he was cheating. And then she discovered evidence. Now, I've talked about this before, that if someone is cheating on you, do you, quote unquote, have the right to invade their privacy? You know, it depends on the situation. It's hard to say a blanket statement, but generally speaking, two wrongs don't make a right. Also, there's other ways of getting at the truth, so to speak. You know, the truth is important to know. And if someone is actively deceiving you and you're not sure if your partner is cheating on you, then yeah, you deserve to know. And maybe there's some boundaries that you can cross to get that information. But this notion that if there's any sign that someone's cheating, then it's okay to invade their privacy, or because that's often what's happening is there's, you know, that's what abusive people do. I'm not saying that she's abusive, but for some of the people that do this, they are a part of a pattern of abuse where they feel threatened or hurt or jealous or paranoid about their partner cheating, and they feel like, well, I have full license to just invade their privacy, you know, put an app on their phone that records everything that they do, or some kind of track device thing where they can, or put a camera, a pinhole camera in their house so they can watch everything. To have a policy of like, if there is suspicion, that gives people the right to invade privacy. If we think of situations where it ends up being that the person was cheating, then we're like, yeah, you had the right to do that. But there are countless other situations where there's zero reason for someone to be paranoid about their partner and to invade privacy. So that's why I have a lot of hesitancy about saying that it's a reason to invade privacy. But anyway, what he is saying, I think, is that she had reasons to believe that he was cheating and that she invaded privacy. And so I'm curious as to why he's bringing this up, though, because he said his mission was to find out if Lydia, was following him on the show or something like that. So I think he's trying to establish that she's a liar so that he can then accuse her of following her onto the show or manipulating Aaliyah or something. But, you know, it's a hard thing to make a case for if you don't know what's in her mind. And even if you did have strong evidence, what is the point? You're not with Lydia. You're not with Aaliyah. So why have this conversation?
I was not going through your things. I opened a drawer.
Lydia, you weren't honest about that. You didn't tell me. You didn't tell me.
She opened a drawer? Now, maybe the drawer was explicitly off limits. It's hard to imagine. It's also possible that she opened the drawer and then rifled, you know, people will say that. It's just like, hey, his phone was just sitting there and like, I just saw this thing. And then you find out, well, yeah, their phone was just sitting there. You picked it up. You secretly figured out his passcode. You got in, and then you had to open up an app, and then you had to find a particular person, and you had to scroll through the text, and then you found something. That's not accidentally. So you were looking for something. Maybe it's justified, but so maybe the drawer thing. But it sounds like she was suspicious. She looked in a drawer and she found evidence of foul play somehow, like a condom or something. I'm trying to figure out what she would open a drawer and see to know that he was cheating. Maybe I'm not hearing it right.
Lydia, hold on.
No.
You didn't
Listen,
say,
Uche.
hey, Uche, I went through
You're
your
not going
thing,
to talk to me like that.
and this is
Listen,
how
Uche.
I
Listen,
know.
Uche.
You
At the
lied
end of
to
the
me,
day,
but
at
you
the
weren't-
end.
So wait a second here. He's claiming, wow, if I'm hearing this right, this is so backwards. So he's saying, my whole point here of sitting you down and trying to demonstrate that you're a liar is that when you discovered I was lying, or is he not saying that? They haven't said explicitly that he cheated, but I thought I heard. Let's rewind that.
Yeah, so what
Because,
I'm trying to
like-
tell you, Lydia, I'm not trying to argue over what it was.
But your volume
what
was
happened,
going up.
But what happened? Okay, let me explain to you. You asked me a question. I was honest with you, and I said, "What made you
After a
ask
while.
that question?"
Okay, so she asked him a question. I'm just reading into things, but that Lydia asked Uche, "Are you cheating on me?" Or did you go out with this person or something? I don't know. I'm just making up a story. Then he answered it honestly and said, yes, I did cheat on you or something. And then when he says, what made you ask that question as to even investigate that? And then she lied to him by saying, I just know, or I don't know, I figured out this other way. But in the reality, she actually had opened his drawer and found something, and then that's what prompted him and her to ask. But she doesn't want to admit that because she doesn't want to come across like she's rifling through his things, because she was caught before having rifled through his things or something. But if we're talking about him cheating on her and her asking and then him saying yes, and then he's like, so to him, the topic sentence to the scenario is, she invaded my privacy and lied about it. But you're burying the lead, as they say.
After a while,
But
it
I told
didn't
you.
happen.
But I told you the
immediately.
truth at the end of the day. And then I asked you what made you ask that question, and you were not honest. You said, "Oh, I just had this intuition."
Right. Oh, I just had this intuition. Right. I mean, we still haven't heard him say, you asked me if I cheated. We don't know what they're referring to, but it definitely sounds like that, right?
No.
You didn't
Listen,
say,
Uche.
"Hey, Uche, I went through
You're
your
not going to
things,
talk to me like that.
and this is
Listen,
how
Uche.
I
Listen,
know."
Uche.
You
At the
lied
end of
to
the
me,
day,
but
at
you
the
weren't
end of the
honest
day,
about that
at the
until I
end of the
told
day,
you that I'm
at
never
the
going
end
to
of the
talk to you
day,
again.
we are not supposed to be
Okay,
together,
so
right?
I want to finish. I'm not even done telling you everything.
Well, what did you expect? That she would sit there on camera and just allow herself to be, even if she did do those things? But it sounds like there's a lot of nuance to that story. I don't know. But what was your hope that this is a court of law? He's a lawyer, right? But he's a business owner, but he's trained as a lawyer. Anyway, that each party is going to be able to make their case. And so she doesn't have any stake in this. So she's like, yeah, I'm with Milton now, so I'm just going to leave. It's a good choice that Lydia is making. And interesting that she actually has the ability to do that, because there'd be a temptation to try to argue about it, but she's just separating. She's like, But I don't know. Are we going to get more detail as to what they're referring to?
I don't want to talk to you. You're
Okay,
not a
hold on.
person.
Let me just finish, Lydia. Let me finish.
I don't care for that.
So there's that word narcissistic, and maybe Lydia has reasons that are understandable or reasonable to use that word. And what does that word mean? But often what people are saying is they are using it in the clinical sense. And I want to remind everyone that unless you are an expert in this disorder, or you have enough experience to understand the disorder well, then I recommend everyone just use regular language, like you're self-centered, you're arrogant, you're self-centered, you don't have empathy, you disregard other people's feelings, you're, high in your own supply. Just use those kind of phrases. They're not clinical phrases, and maybe those things are more accurate. But to just use a word like narcissistic in today's world is potentially, it's not a huge deal, but it doesn't usually land. Let's just put it that way. It's not usually something that, if you're really trying to get something across to someone, it's just saying narcissistic isn't probably going to land with other people or even bystanders.
Me and Lydia have like a quick chat, to ourselves, and then me and you.
You guys can, but me and Lydia actually have plans in 10 minutes.
So at first I'm thinking why would Milton be texting in this moment? Maybe that's an important thing, but I think he actually was sending a note to Lydia.
Let me finish this talk with him.
Okay, I'll be outside.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
I'm going to take a guess and say that Milton said, you want me to stay or go, or you want me to punch him? I don't know, probably not that, but, and then Lydia clarifies and says, it's okay, I can handle it.
Let's skip forward. Let's skip forward here a little bit, because you have plans in 10 minutes or whatever the case may be. Whenever we started talking again, I started getting messages from girls that I follow on Instagram saying that you have been watching their stories.
Again, even if this is true, what are you expecting to happen? Do you think that Lydia's going to be like, you caught me red-handed? You're right. There's no proof. You can't show something to really confront her. All Lydia has to do is, even if it's true, is just deny it. So I just don't understand. Is this a performance that Uche is trying to have for the cameras or something? I don't know. What's the purpose here? Yeah. I can't imagine this being very satisfying, because there's so many possibilities. He could be accurate or accurate-ish. He could be completely, given that the way he was framing earlier the invasion of his privacy. And it might still be accurate, like that he talked about a few instances of invading his privacy, and maybe a lot of them were completely unjustified, but one time it was maybe not justified, but it did lead to something that he was discovered having cheated or something. I mean, they didn't say that explicitly, but I don't know. I have a feeling at the end of this whole thing, I'm going to not be very satisfied with the data, that there's a lot of accusations, a lot of possibilities. It could be that one of them is very problematic, or both, or neither. I don't know.
What?
So they're sending me screenshots of your profile and saying, this girl has been watching my stories for weeks. But you're looking at their stories.
I don't know Instagram's algorithm.
Lydia, we said we weren't going to lie, right? You were going through my followers and you were...
Yeah, I'm not aware of these sorts of things, but unless you like something, do you know everyone that watches your stories? Is that something that you know? Were the friends of his saying that she's liking this? It doesn't sound like that, right? It sounds like they just can see that. Do you know that? Is that something that you can tell? Anyway, and then Lydia says, I don't know the algorithm on Instagram. And yeah, that's another possibility, that the algorithm is just like, well, Uche likes this person and they interact, and there's this new person in Uche's algorithm, Lydia, so let's send a bunch of stuff from Uche's group to Lydia, because maybe Lydia will engage with it. And I wouldn't even put it past Zuckerberg and company to actually know that, oh, Lydia is now with Uche, and Lydia, given her track record or just the fact that she's dating Uche right now, that she'll get triggered if we expose her to, I mean, I don't know. There's worse things that have been demonstrated that Facebook and Instagram will do regarding the algorithm. But anyway, she's saying, I don't know the algorithm, so I don't know. I'm guessing we're just going to have a he said, she said thing.
So many people texting me saying that you're stalking their profiles and they feel uncomfortable.
Do you forget about how,
hold on,
things
Lydia,
really
Lydia. And then you drove by my house one day. You took a picture of my house and you sent it to me. And you said, I see you.
I was passing by and we were having a conversation. Don't act like you didn't have.
Okay, yeah, okay. It's hard. All right. So when he first said that, I was thinking, well, that could be stalking, and it could be someone that is trying to intimidate or feeling entitled to break boundaries, whatever. We heard that he was saying that they were dating it. They were a couple. I don't know if it was an exclusive thing, but he said, then I went back with Lydia, and a little bit later, as we are still together, she was driving by my place, took a picture, I see you. And I'm thinking, okay, so I need more information, because if it's just that, then that's your girlfriend who just was in the neighborhood and took a picture that she was near your house.
One day, you took a picture of my house and you sent it to me.
Listen,
you said, I see you.
I was passing by and we were having a.
I was passing by, we were having a conversation. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe to Uche, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. That in the midst of the context of the relationship at the time and passing by, you don't pass by my place, especially where my house is. So you were trying to send him. I mean, who knows? It could be a lot of different things. It could also be that Uche is paranoid about being stalked, or determined to throw her under the bus, or I don't know. There's just a lot of possibilities here that are opening up.
Like you didn't have nobody. Okay, Uche, this conversation is
I'm
going
just trying
nowhere.
to tell you how I feel.
Really? Screenshots? It's fucking comical. He knows what happened really between us. He knows. He knows. But he's not gonna say that. Do you want like me to share what happened?
Okay, so she's threatening to out him in front of the cameras. I'm guessing it's infidelity, which he's basically already referred to it. So, yeah. Yeah, they were talking very nice about each other in the pods, but now it seems it's not so nice between the two of them. And maybe they just had, it's kind of interesting. Relationships are complicated. So one possibility is that it was a very toxic relationship and they were lying the entire time as they were saying nice things about the other person. That's probably not likely, but it's possible. Seeing this, they had a normal, complicated relationship, and then when they broke up, they had, some nice memories of each other, and when they went on the show, they just thought, it's just probably better if we... And this is actually interesting because I've been painting Lydia in this light of not having the ability to refrain from saying things that are in her mind, impulse control problems with saying things. But this whole time, including everything up until this point, if I'm reading this right, she has been withholding some very damning information for Uche. As Uche is doing all this stuff, she's like being calm, and she has an impulse to say like, so you're accusing me of lying when you did a thing that we both know, and she doesn't even refer to it. And this is, this has been conversation been going on for a long time. And then eventually she is now saying this after a long time. So that shows the opposite, that she has a lot of impulse control, right? At least seemingly. So, things are complicated.
Do you want to tell me about the sex thing? He slept with a girl when he was dating with me, and then had the nerve to judge Aaliyah when she told her about her past.
Okay, so at least from Lydia, she's saying that he did cheat. In front of him, she said sexting, and then in the one-on-one interview, she said cheating. Who knows? But sexting is cheating, right? In most relationships. So, yeah, interesting. Now, maybe Uche is like, it wasn't really infidelity because Lydia and I were not really together. We had broken up and gotten back, because I was wondering if, on a different topic, there's just a lot, given the way that the relationship has been described by both of them, there's just a lot of details that we don't know. On the surface, it might look one way, but in reality, it's like maybe their first stint, they were exclusive, then they break up and they randomly get back together, but they never actually explicitly have a conversation as to the exclusivity of that new relationship, because, you know, they break up, they're not together, then they have a second chapter, and one person is of the mindset of like, this is just a random thing that we do. We're not back together, really. And the other person is like, we're back together and exclusive, just like we were before. This is why, you know, you have to be explicit, especially when you're in this early phase of dating and stuff. So that's a possibility. And then maybe Uche's like, I didn't really cheat because I was with Lydia, but we weren't exclusive, but I should have said something, you know, who knows? Or Uche did straight up cheat and Uche recognizes that. And if so, then yeah, yikes, that he would, I mean, everything that the whole, in terms of what Uche was saying to Aaliyah, I think was verbatim fair. The tone was a little much, but I think it's rational for someone in that position to be alarmed a little bit by what she was saying. Not that she cheated, but the way she was framing it. She eventually said some reassuring things, and then he apologized. Anyway, so all that is still true, but to then proceed and not say, and by the way, I should say that I've cheated as well. I'm not proud of it myself, and da-da-da, you know. So you would think that would be the fair thing to do, especially when you know the cameras are on you. But if you thought that, one, you never actually cheated because there are circumstances, or that you thought that, well, my cheating will never come out because that's in the past and I'm just going to bury that and act like it never happened. And it's pretty normal for people to do. Honestly, I would say a lot of people who have cheated, when you ask them on a date, have they ever cheated? They will say, I've never cheated. I think a lot of people would say that. I don't know that. I don't know the research on it, but it's just a hard thing to talk about for people. They might also be in denial of it or something. It's kind of a personal question. There's a lot there, right? I'm not saying you should be lying, but I'm saying that is it kind of normal for someone to obscure that? Yeah. But there's another possibility that Uche is extremely problematic and is just a good arguer, such that the presentation that he gave us in the edit anyway made him look much more sympathetic than what he actually is. There's a possibility that he's a very unsympathetic person in all of this. But I don't know. We just don't have enough information, and I'm guessing we're not ever going to get it.
Super disappointed of you, Uche.
I have one last thing.
Super disappointed. I thought you were the great guy, but
you.
this shit.
I just showed you.
I ain't gonna deal with this shit.
I just showed you.
I ain't gonna deal with this shit.
You're gonna walk off again.
Yes.
You don't know how to have a conversation.
This is the last time you will see my fucking face.
You don't know how to have a conversation,
Lydia.
It's problematic how comfortable he is in this space. You could argue it's his training as an attorney, but there's I don't know. I mean, Lydia is acting more, I think, understandable, more relatable, whereas for him, it's like his whole mission, what he stated, I don't know if I showed it on the camera, was, you know, he had some questions and he was gonna confront her. And then he sits her down and proceeds to just lay out all these details that are making her look like a liar and a bad person. And when the tables are turned, he just moves past it or even frames it in his mind like that's irrelevant or something. And maybe it is, maybe there's some details. I don't know. I mean, if you just look at the whole thing, especially this bit as she's walking away, seemingly his mission was that he wanted to belittle her. He wanted her to succumb. He wanted to overpower her with details and calm, cool bullet points. And when she walks away, it's frustrating to him because he doesn't have the ability to do that to her. And you have to think, well, okay, let's say that you actually achieved your goal and she sat there and accepted. Okay, then what? What would he have said? Like, yes, I won the argument, or, and now, Lydia, I need you to change because, you know, what was his point? What's he trying to achieve? And it's possible that he literally was trying to achieve dominance, and pure and simple. He just wanted to dominate because he had a bone to pick, because he feels like Lydia might have ruined his chances with Aaliyah or something. But Aaliyah came back, and then he dumped her. But, you could see him thinking, you kind of messed with things again. So, but you could also, if he didn't want to be with Aaliyah, you would think he would appreciate that Lydia messed with things, because then it revealed, according to him, Aaliyah's true nature, which he wouldn't have known otherwise, right? So, I don't know, but maybe he has a bone to pick, so that's why. But other than that, I can't think why he would have the goal that he seems to have.
Space.
That's the problem.
I ain't gonna deal with this. You need to get your personality checked.
I'm not the one that was stalking people's Instagrams.
Milton!
Lydia.
Yeah, and we can add to the possibilities that these friends of his who were saying that Lydia is stalking them on Instagram are wrong. It's possible. It's possible that they're right. I don't know. But even if they were right, does that, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many possibilities. Like, there's a problem here somewhere. And either she is in that direction, and or he is highly problematic in the way that we're maybe seeing the tip of the iceberg. Or this whole time, well, we did see things with Lydia and Aaliyah where Lydia was bulldozing. And we did hear about a fight between Lydia and Aaliyah, but we don't know the circumstances there. Aaliyah seems pretty reasonable, though. And so that we have that we know, because we saw it, in terms of the way Lydia was treating Aaliyah. And it's hard to conclude anything from that bulldozing. She could have just been very excitable and impulse control or something, or even intoxicated herself at the time. Who knows? Not that that's an excuse, but then, so we have that, but to there's a lot of extrapolation from that, and hearing things that Uche was saying, there's a lot of extrapolation of stalking and abusive and manipulative and deceptive and liar. She lies all the time. So we don't have any data to demonstrate that other than Uche's word and his conclusions. And then on this other side with Uche, you have these indications of a big problem. He cheated, it sounds like, and Lydia's saying that, and also he seemed to be even talking about that. Does that make Uche a horrible person? No. In the same way, it doesn't make Aaliyah a horrible person. So we can't really extrapolate from that. A lot of people will cheat. It's a data point. I'm just trying to lock down the facts instead of just extrapolation. And we see his demeanor. We saw his demeanor with Aaliyah, and that was notable, but in the context seemed at least halfway appropriate. And then we're seeing a similar demeanor with Lydia, in which it doesn't make any sense, really, because what's the goal other than just to demean her or blast her? And what were you expecting, that she was just going to give in? And the way he comes across. So there's that data point that we've seen. We also know that he rejects Aaliyah in the end because he extrapolated from Aaliyah's behavior that Aaliyah would be an abandoner, which is reasonable to conclude given how little you know about her. But at the same time, it is a data point that to me looked like he was jumping too fast to that conclusion, but understandable, I think. And maybe he can't tolerate not only the abandonment, but the humiliation. And that is a major component of why he is on this warpath. We see his behavior to Lydia right now. Again, it's hard to know what any of this means. There's some indication that he is just lying through his teeth this whole time, and a lot of what he said about Lydia is just lying through his teeth or majorly spinning things in a direction. But I don't know, we just don't have facts. We don't have actual facts, because if there's a chance that he was telling the truth, then of course Lydia would just lie about things to say, no, I didn't stalk you, when she did. I will say that the data that he gave regarding stalking was kind of thin, but sometimes when people stalk, they won't do anything that's overt because they know better than to do that because they want to continue to have that power. So I don't know. What do you think? I'm guessing you have an opinion, right?
If me and Milton can get through this, we can get through anything.
Let's walk away from her. I want to chat with you.
There's a part of me that wants to burn it all.
Intriguing music playing. So I never watched these previews because why? Okay, so we gotta wait until now. By the time this video comes out on YouTube, the episodes will have already been released, so y'all would know what happens after this. I'm going to take a guess and predict that Uche lays a lot of shit out to Milton, and Milton doesn't know the context, so he probably doesn't refute it necessarily. But I'm going to take a guess and say that Milton doesn't really believe it, and goes to Lydia, and then Lydia tells him the whole story, and then Milton either is like, well, I don't know what happened, but it sounds like a messy relationship. I'm going to move forward with Lydia. Yeah. I mean, so on one hand, you could say that if Uche has solid reasons to believe that Lydia is up to no good, that it would be the moral or altruistic thing to actually go to Milton and say, you should probably know what you're dealing with. But if Uche doesn't have reasons to believe that and is just making it up or is massively distorted, then this is a pretty dick move, at the very least. It could be seen as that he wants to actually be with her. That, you know, because his accusation of Lydia is that Lydia wants to, and maybe they both have like some sort of toxic chemistry or compulsion towards each other. I'm guessing that theory is bandied about, but it's hard to tell. And then it sort of, this whole thing kind of repaints the Aaliyah situation, because I thought that the Aaliyah-Uche breakup was unfortunate, but after seeing this, I'm wondering if Aaliyah dodged a bullet. I'm sure people think that. Do we find out any more information in the coming up episodes? I'm guessing not, but who knows? And even if we did hear from, because it's just their word, right? And I'm guessing that it would just be he said, she said. So I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities, and we can use this as an opportunity that I will use with my students and my supervisees, that it's really hard for us to sit in ambiguity, especially when we see fighting going on. I use this exercise a lot in my couple therapy demonstrations and classes, that it's very hard for us when we see two people that are disagreeing or have different stories. It's really hard for us to be like, let me think about it. I don't know. I don't know who's right, who's wrong. Maybe they're both wrong. Maybe they're both right. Maybe they're misunderstanding each other. Maybe one person is super bad and the other person is innocent. Maybe one person is 70% bad, the other person is 30% bad. I don't know. Hard to know. We really do not like that situation. I mean, just think about, the Depp Heard trial and all that kind of stuff, and all the rhetoric that is around these kinds of shows. People, in my observation, it's like very quick to either say this person is awful and this person is a victim, or they're both awful. I hate them both. Instead of refraining from that because we don't have enough information and saying, I don't know. It could be really bad. It could be very, very bad what we're watching right now. It could be tons of abuse and actual gaslighting, or very robust attempts over the long term to gaslight. A lot of lying, there could be stalking, legit stalking and abusive behavior. There could be just straight up lying or distorting or trying to tear someone down, systematically tear someone down. The way Uche talks, if the speculations, what I'm guessing what people would say about him are true, then that is diabolical. The approach that is, that speculation, right? So there could be some very, very bad things that are happening, or there could be only thoughts of bad things that are happening from each side because they're hurt, and things look bad, but they're not actually bad. And we just have, now maybe y'all know because there's details that come out later, but if you are in that situation, or if you can think of another situation like on this show, I think it does help to be able to exercise that ability. It's a muscle, if you will, of emotion and perception and conceptualization and differentiation in one's mind, to be able to say, I want an answer, but I don't have an answer, and I don't know. To say that, especially in the face of the possibility of someone being victimized, right? We're seeing the possibility of one person really being harmed by another. And for us to sit back and say, I don't know, what it feels like a lot is that we're siding with the abuser, because that's what it would be if it was actual abuse, because our complacency or lack of committing to a conceptualization of abuse allows the abuse to continue. But unless we know it's actually abusive and harmful, then it would be equally as harmful to accuse someone of being abusive, because if they're not, then that's okay, especially if they might be kind of a victim at times, or even just flat out victimized by the other person. Then you're calling the victim the abuser. So until you have enough information, especially as a clinician, and that's why I would do this exercise, you can have hypotheses and you can have questions and you can have ideas, but you want to refrain from concluding, because you don't want to, at the very least, you don't want to be wrong, because if you're going to treat someone as a therapist, if you're going to provide therapy, you have to have at least a somewhat accurate conceptualization before you move forward, right? But you might also be participating in something that is quite harmful, to just jump to a conclusion and to ignore another possibility, you know? So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm sort of walking because I have given what we saw, I have a temptation to just conclude that Uche is a jerk face or abusive. Yeah, I guess an abusive Machiavellian person who likes to tear people down and is high in his own supply and is very self-assured and believes that he's above the law, so to speak, right? That, okay, fine, I cheated, but I can do that because I'm me or something. I mean, there's a temptation that I'm feeling right now to have that conceptualization, but then I have to walk it back and say, like, okay, well, what are the facts on the ground? I just don't know. And so that's where I'm at. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's my reaction. And everyone out there, please, until next time, take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.